Today we're going to be knitting this sweater together. It is a super cropped sweater with long sleeves. There's nothing special with the panels, but a lot of work is put in the sleeves. As you can imagine, up to the wrist is going to be a fitted sleeve, and right after the wrist it gets bigger, so it's kind of like a bell sleeve. If you're new here, I also make crochet tutorials, so don't forget to check out my channel. Yeah, so let's just get right into it. I'm going to be using these needles. This is a circular one, and I got these off Amazon. It comes with different sizes. These are super smooth to knit with. I already tried them out. This is not a sponsored video, so if you don't have any needles yet, I'll put a link in the description box below. You can check it out. So these are what I'm going to be using. Because it's long enough, I can make super wide panels. But I also got these ones because I wasn't sure which kind of needle I would need, so I got them both. The good thing about this one is it comes with 5 needles. It also comes with different sizes. In some situations, I do prefer like shorter ones, more of them with the same size. I'll also remember to put these in the box below. And for the yarn, I'll be using this one. It's called Carnival 100% acrylic. You can see all the information here. But I'll be using a 10mm needles to create that holey type of look. Another thing, this is the edge of the sleeve. I did use a crochet hook and did 2 rows here, but if you don't have a crochet hook, you can just cast off as usual, which I will show you later. Normally, I will start with the panel, but for this sweater, the sleeves are the unique part, so I'm going to start with the sleeve. I'm going to be using a long tail cast on. That means you're going to leave a really long tail. Like I just stretch my arms out and then this is what I have. That's definitely enough for the sleeve. And then I'm going to make a slip knot. Put the knot on the needle. You're going to make sure the tail side is closer to you and the yarn that connects to the ball is on the other side. So long tail here, ball of yarn over there. Then I'm going to use my thumb and index finger, just go between the yarn threads and then grab both threads from below and then just push these two open. And then I'm going to take my needle down, flip my hand like this. Now I have loop 1 on the thumb and loop 2 on the index finger. I'm going to hold the loop on the needle and then go through loop 1, upward, go through loop 2, downward. And then I'm going to go through loop 1 again. Just touch a thumb like this. And then pull down. Push open 2 loops. Loop 1, upward. Loop 2, downward. Then loop 1 again. Up, down, back. Up, down, back. Now I have 6 loops on the needle. You're going to keep doing this until we have 30 loops. Now that I have 30 loops on one needle, I'm going to take the other needle, grab the thread that's connected to the ball, and then I'm gonna knit the whole row. So I'm gonna knit my first stitch. I'm gonna insert my needle upward in the first loop. That's needle 1, that's needle 2. Wrap my yarn around needle 2 from the back, left, front, like this. Bring the new loop through the original loop and then slide it off. The second stitch, insert needle in the loop upward, wrap yarn around needle 2, bring the new loop through the original loop and then slide it off. Upward, wrap yarn around needle 2, bring through, slide off. Continue doing this and finish row 1. Last stitch, I'm going to try not to stretch it out. I'm going to try to use the tip of the needles and then finish the last knit stitch. And then I'm going to turn my needle like this. On this side, we have these horizontal little bars. So whenever you see these, we're going to do purl stitches for the next row. To do a purl stitch, I'm going to bring my needle like this behind the thread and then insert downward. Then I'm going to wrap my yarn around needle 2 in the same direction, back, left, front, like this, and then bring the new loop through the old one and then just slide off. So when you do your purl stitch, make sure the yarn is at the front. Insert in the next stitch, downward, bring yarn around, bring the new loop through and slide off. Continue doing this and finish row 2. Again, for the last stitch, I'm going to try not to stretch it out. And then turn the needle. Now we're looking at the right side of the panel. On this side, we don't have those horizontal bars. That means the next row is knit row. So now we've done 2 rows. You're going to go ahead and just alternate between these 2 rows. 1 knit row, 1 purl row, and then do another 8 rows, so 10 rows in total. And then I'm going to meet you back here. So after you finish row 10, just turn your work. You should have these loops facing you. You can count your rows by counting these little loops vertically. Each loop represents 1 row. I have 10 loops here in the column, so that's 10 rows. Next row is row 11. We're going to do some decrease in this row. I'm going to knit the first stitch as normal. Then do a decrease by knitting the next 2 stitches together. So normally we knit like this, but for decrease, we're going to treat these 2 stitches as one and work them together. Then I'm going to knit the rest stitches as usual until I have 3 stitches left. Now I have 3 stitches left. I'm going to make a decrease again by knitting the next 2 stitches together. You can just do what we did before. That's one way. You can also do an SSK, which is slip, slip, knit. It will mirror the knit 2 together decrease we did at the beginning of the row, making them symmetrical. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to slip the first stitch as if to knit. Do that again with the next stitch. And then insert your needle through the front of those 2 stitches. Wrap yarn around needle 2 and then pull it through. Once the decrease is done, knit the last stitch. From row 12 to row 20, there is no decrease. You're just going to knit the knit and purl the purls. So just alternate between a purl and a knit row and do 9 more rows. So this is the decrease row. After that, I did another 9 rows without decrease. Over here, we can see these 2 loops are overlapped and there is only one loop coming through both of them. This row is the decrease row, which is row 11. And then from there is 12, 13, 14, 15. So finish row 20 and row 21, we're going to do the same decrease again. Always knit the first stitch as normal. Then do a knit 2 together decrease. Then I'm going to knit all the way until I have 3 stitches left. Okay, 3 stitches left. Do that SSK again. Slip one knitwise. Slip the next knitwise. Go back through the front of those 2 loops. Wrap yarn around and pull through. Knit the last stitch. So that's row 21. After this decrease row, do another 9 rows. Just knit the knit and purl the purls like before, and I'll see you back here. So that's the decrease row, row 21, 22, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I just finished row 30. So now we're somewhere around here. As you can see, we still need to keep decreasing for a little bit more. To be honest, when I did this sleeve, the decrease is a little bit random, but it still follows a pattern. You're still just doing 1 decrease row after a certain number of rows, and every decrease row is going to happen on this side. So you're just going to have to knit them. And on a decrease row, you're going to knit the first and the last stitch, and then just make a decrease in the 2 stitches next to them. So we did 30 stitches for 10 rows, and then we made a decrease row, which turned 30 stitches into 28. And then we did 28 stitches for another 9 rows. So together is 28 stitches for 10 rows. And next we did a decrease row again, which turned 28 stitches into 26 stitches. And we did 26 stitches for another 9 rows, which in total is 26 stitches for 10 rows. So here is what you're going to do. Next, you're going to do a decrease row, which is going to turn 26 stitches into 24 stitches. So on the screen, it says 24 stitches for 8 rows. So that's 1 decrease row plus 7 rows with no decrease. And next it says 22 stitches for 6 rows. That means you're going to do 1 decrease row, which turns 24 stitches into 22. And then you're gonna do 5 more rows with no decrease. So as you can see on the screen, the last one says do 16 stitches for 6 rows. That brings us to row 56. If you want to count from the beginning, it would be row 56. So go ahead and finish row 56 and I'm going to see you back here. Okay, so now I've finished row 56 and this is the last decrease row I did. This row turned 18 stitches into 16 stitches, and then I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 rows in total. From the next row, we're going to start to increase, and we're only going to do it on this side, on the knit side. So that means we're going to increase every other row. In each row, we're going to increase twice, here and here. So after the first stitch and before the last stitch. I'm going to go ahead and knit my first stitch. And then I'm going to do a lifted increase. So you see this loop right below the next stitch? I'm going to insert my needle from the back and put this loop on the left needle. And then I'm going to put my needle through the front of the stitch upward and knit a stitch. So that is the new stitch we just added. And then knit the next stitch. Continue knitting. As I said, I'm going to do my increase here. So I'm going to go ahead and knit the next stitch first. This time we're going to insert in the stitch that's 2 rows below this one. 1, 2. Because we just made a new stitch here. That's why it's 2 rows below this loop. So I'm going to insert my needle in that loop from the back. And then insert needle 2 through the back loop. Yarn over and knit this stitch. Go ahead and knit your last stitch. So now we should have 18 stitches. On the purl side, you're just going to purl every stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this purl row and show you how to do the increase again in the next row. Okay, so now we've done 18 stitches for 2 rows. I'm going to increase in the next row again, so we have 20 stitches. So go ahead and knit your first stitch. Insert your hook in the loop 1 row below the next stitch from the back and put it on your left needle and knit this stitch. That's the new stitch. Go ahead and knit the next stitch. Then knit every stitch in this row until 1 stitch left. Insert your needle in the loop 2 rows below the previous stitch. From the back, insert my right needle through the back loop and knit this stitch. Knit the last stitch. And the next row is a purl row again with no increase. And the very next row, you're going to increase again on the knit side. So I'm going to go ahead and keep increasing every other row like this until I have 30 stitches for 2 rows. So I've done 30 stitches for 2 rows, 1 increase row, 1 regular, and then I'm going to do 2 more rows in crochet. So this edge you're looking at is crocheted. I did 1 single crochet row and then 1 reverse single crochet row. It's great if you already have a crochet hook. If you don't have one yet, you can just bind off normally, which I'll show you how to do later. But first, I'll show you how to do it in crochet. You can use a crochet hook the same size as the needle, or if you have a slightly smaller one, you can use that as well. So I'm going to use a smaller hook size than the needle size because from my experience, I feel hooks tend to create bigger holes than needles do. So I'm going to use an 8mm crochet hook. But if you don't have a smaller size, you can just use the same size as the needles. First, I'm going to pull the yarn to the left. Hold it with my index finger. Then insert my hook in the first loop, purlwise, and pull it off the needle. Use the hook to chain 1. Then insert my hook in the next stitch, purlwise, pull it off the needle. Then I'm going to yarn over, pull through the first loop. Yarn over again, pull through 2 loops. Next stitch, put it on the hook, yarn over, pull through 1, then yarn over again, pull through 2 loops. Next stitch, put it on the hook, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, then yarn over again, pull through 2. So just keep doing this, and I'll see you at the end of this row. I've got 1 stitch left. You're just going to do the same. Yarn over and pull through 1. Yarn over again and pull through 2. So that is 1 row of single crochets. Chain 1. The next row is going to be a reverse single crochet row. In knitting, we have 1 loop for each stitch. In crochet, we have 2 top loops for each stitch. So when I insert my hook, I'm going to insert my hook under those top 2 loops. Okay, that's the chain 1. I'm going to insert my hook in the first stitch, top 2 loops, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, and make a single crochet. Insert my hook in the next stitch, hold your first stitch, which is around here, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. An easy way is to pretend this loop's not here when you insert your hook in the next stitch and pull up a loop. Make a single crochet. So when you're pulling up a loop, like this, don't pull it through the first loop. Otherwise, you end up with 1 loop. You should have 2 loops on your hook before you make a single crochet. And try not to pull each stitch too tight. Just make them as loosely as you can. I have 2 stitches left. Go ahead and make a reverse single crochet in each of them. And then I'm going to leave a really long tail to sew the sleeves together. I left about twice the sleeve length. Then you're just going to pull it through. If you don't have a crochet hook, you can just simply bind off. Here's how you do it. So I'm going to knit the first 2 stitches. And then I'm going to insert my left needle through the front loop of the first stitch. You're going to want to do this very loosely or the edge of your cuff is going to be tight. Okay, so I'm going to pull the first loop over the second one, like this, and then off the tip. Knit the next stitch. Pull the first loop through the second one. Make it loose. So knit the next stitch. Once you have 2 loops on the right needle, just pull the first one over the second one. I've got 1 stitch left. Go ahead and knit the stitch. Pull the first stitch over the second one. Leave a long tail, cut your yarn, and then just pull this yarn through. And the edge of your sleeve is going to look something like this. Now that you know how to make sleeves, the back panel is super easy. The only difference is the number of stitches that we're going to cast on. For a sleeve, we cast on 30 stitches. For a panel, we're going to cast on 40 stitches. Then you're just going to knit 1 row and purl 1 row. There is no decrease or increase for the back panel, so you're just going to keep repeating those 2 rows for a total of 40 rows. Then for the front panel, you're going to start it in the same way, exactly the same way, cast on 40 stitches and just keep alternating between a knit row and a purl row. Except you're not going to do 40 rows because we're going to leave some stitches around here for the neckline. So don't do 40 rows yet, do 36 rows first, and then I'm going to meet you back here and show you how to do the last 4 rows, which is the shoulders. So after you finish row 36, we're going to go ahead and do 4 more rows on each shoulder, making the front panel a total of 40 rows. I'm going to show you how to do the shoulders on this sample here. So after you finish row 36, mark out the center 14 stitches. These are the stitches we're going to cast off. For the last 4 rows here, I'm going to use a different color yarn so you can see more clearly. So on row 37, I went ahead and did the first 10 stitches. I'm going to go ahead and knit to the stitch marker. When you get to the stitch marker, take it off. Knit 2 more stitches. And then I'm going to cast off the second last stitch we did. Then go ahead and knit the next stitch. Cast off that second last stitch again. Keep doing this, just knit 1 stitch and then cast off the previous stitch. When you get to the stitch marker, you can take it off. But we still need to cast off this stitch. So I'm going to knit the next stitch and then cast off that stitch again. Then you can continue knitting to the end of the row. Your work should look something like this. Then we're just going to keep working this shoulder back and forth. So I just finished a knit row here. The next row should be a purl row. So you're just going to purl every stitch in that row, and then you're going to do knit, purl again. So you have 4 rows in total. When you're working one side of the shoulder, you can just leave these stitches on the needle. We can get back to them later. When you finish those 4 rows, you should be on the knit side. That's the first row. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're just going to cast off these stitches, and then this shoulder is done. Now for the other side of the shoulder, we'll have to rejoin the yarn. I'm going to join from here. So I just hold the yarn with my left hand. Make sure the yarn is in front of the needle. And then just purl the whole row. Then I'll knit the next row, purl the last row, cast off all the stitches. The front panel is finished. Now that we've got 4 pieces, 2 panels and 2 sleeves, this is how we put everything together. The red lines is where we're supposed to join seams. So you're going to join the front panel and back panel at the shoulder seams here, and then you're going to line the center of the sleeve up with the shoulder seam and then sew along this edge. So from shoulder seam to here is going to be your armhole, so make sure you leave enough room here for your arm to go through. If it's too small, you can stretch this point a little further to leave enough room for your arm. If you don't know how to join seams yet, please refer to the second method in this video. After you attach the sleeves to the panels, we're going to use this long tail that we left earlier to join the bottom of the sleeves. If you still have enough yarn left, you can continue joining the sides of the sweater, but I used the tail left here to do it because it hides the color better. I'm pretty happy with the neckline and the bottom of the sweater, so I'm not going to add anything to them. But if you feel like it doesn't look finished, you can do what we did here earlier with the edge of the sleeve. So you're going to go to the center of the back panel, and you're going to do it on the right side of the sweater. So attach your yarn here, and then just make 1 row of single crochets in this direction. And then chain 1, make 1 more row of reverse single crochets. At the bottom, attach your yarn here, somewhere in the center, and start it in this direction. So exactly what we did for the last 2 rows of the sleeves.